My name is Adriano Caceres, and today I will be informing you on the plot and theming of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, specifically the first three parts. And of course, with that, there are spoilers, so if you have not seen at least the first three parts of JoJo, you should watch it and then come back. To start, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a series that covers plenty of different bases in terms of genre and theming that separate the six parts from one another. Many fans of the series have different opinions of which part they believe to be better than the rest, simply due to how vast and unique each part's characters, settings, and how different the author and illustrator, Hirohiko Araki, fleshes out each part. Starting off with part 1, you'll see here this shows us the introduction of the primary antagonist, Dio Brando, being shown to Jonathan Joestar. Now, the clash of colors can be noted between the hair, a blonde and then a sharp blue. Those are about opposite on the color wheel, of course. And if you'll notice here with the expressions, his looks more hateful compared to his. He's just unsure. And if you can see here, Dio intends to seek out the inheritance that Jonathan will receive. And this one shows us the introduction of Baron Zappelli, a secondary protagonist that aims to teach Jonathan the ways of Hamon breathing, which is a power that would be used to defeat vampires. But of course, a lot of training would be required, and it is shown between this image and the next. Okay, and then next we have the fight between Jonathan and Dio, and this is after the point Dio had transformed himself with the stone mask. And then this also shows us the losses that Jonathan has faced, including his father, Baron Zappelli, and a warrior whose name is Bluford, who he had helped him realize that Jonathan was a gentleman. And it's very clear that using the Hamon that he has learned, he is ready to fight Dio. Then next, this is the end of part 1, where after Dio was defeated in that last fight, he was beheaded, but of course remained alive as a vampire. And he had also infiltrated the ship that they were planning a honeymoon on to kill Jonathan once and for all. But of course, Jonathan overcame it and, in an act of selflessness, intended to take both their lives on the cruise ship to protect the rest of the world. Okay. So then for the final overall main theme, I'm noticing the humanity versus evil as a main idea, and then a main idea present is forgiveness and acceptance, because in the final moments of Jonathan, he was coming to terms with Dio and talking to him. And then, of course, fate is a large part of JoJo in order to ensure the plot continues. And then plot rises that I noticed were when Dio became vampiric, and then Dio resulting in the death of many close ones. And actually, before we move on, I'll show you a thing I have. It's a silly replication of the stone mask, if you can see it. Where I can put it over there. Circle over here. Yeah, it's wearable and programmable. But okay, and then on to part 2. That shows us the new protagonist, the grandson of Jonathan Joestar, and his name is Joseph Joestar. Now, compared to Jonathan, Joseph is not as much of a gentleman, but he still does protect the people who are weaker than him. Next, we have the main antagonists of part 2, which are the Pillarmen, and they are left to right Esadisi, Wamu, and Kars. And their primary goal is to obtain a red stone of Asia, which they will use to become ultimate things. And of course, they are non-human, which brings us to the point of humanity. Okay, and then the next point shows us after the other two Pillarmen were defeated, leaving only Kars to finish the goal, which of course he did, where he became the ultimate thing, which of course harnesses the properties of all life on Earth. And it was a big surprise to the protagonist to find that Kars was unaffected by the sun, which was a big drawback of the Pillarmen. And then after this point, this shows us Cars, after which he was defeated in a way that was quite ironic, being as he overpowered all earthly beings, and in so was taken away from Earth, which shows us that Cars really cannot defeat fate. And then finally, the overall theme, of course, was humanity versus godly powers. And then the ideas present was Cars' plans for dominion over humankind. And upon achieving the ultimate thing, he was supposedly impossible to beat. And then the plot rose whenever Cars became the ultimate thing. And then, of course, placed Joseph's loved ones in danger. Next, we have the introduction of Part 3. This brings us into the introduction of a new power system known as stands. It's kind of, which is basically a ghostly power, but it was brought on by the activation of Dio's stand, the world, and it's basically a representation of a user's mental power and will. We'll go with the next one here. So this shows us that Dio actually survived Part 1, and he had grafted his head onto Jonathan's body to make it into Part 3. And of course, as I said before, his stand is known as the World, and throughout the part, many of the villains are sent to defeat the Crusaders. Now, this actually tells us, once again, humanity against evil, but of course, with the new power system, okay. Sorry about that. And then this image right here shows us the clash between Jotaro, the grandson of the grandson of Jonathan, and his stand is known as Star Platinum. And there is a point to be made here where stoicism versus expression, where it's a lot of showboating on Dio's part compared to Jotaro's stoicism. And the big reveal at the time was that his stand power, Dio's stand power, was to stop time. And then, of course, like I said, humanity versus evil once more. And then this shows us Dio's defeat. And this brings us to the point where peace is restored. But of course, many friends were lost along the way. And then I'll bring us to the main theme, which is humanity versus pure evil once more. With another idea where a power that is considered unbeatable because stopping time is unfathomable almost. And then Dio's return spells danger for the Joestar bloodline. And then the plot rises whenever Dio's power is revealed, and then the ante is upped whenever Jotaro loses many of his friends. And then this shows us the overall family tree, showing between Jonathan and his wife Erina, giving birth to the mother of Joseph, Lisa, with an unnamed George Joestar. Sorry. And then from that point, it was Joseph paired with Susie Q to give birth to Holly, and then of course, an actually unnamed father figure gives birth to Jotaro. Please mind the audio there. Look at him, Arena. His legs, those ripples. Oh, think again. He's feeling fine. He's standing in the morning sun, and he couldn't care less about it. This concludes the end of my informative speech. Thank you for watching.